resilience and but also the adaptation capacity of the ecosystem for the extreme events or climate change events. That also includes, of course, the capacity of the human being, to adapt to these new scenarios. That would include, of course, how you can react, to the disasters or the risk that is linked to these extremes or climate change events.
One more question.
Bernal, gracias por la presentación. Yeah. My concern at this moment, is particularly after you presented, is how would you go about presenting and selling this new approach and concept, which is not really that new, but let's say that it's new, to governments? I mean, how can we not only influence policy to make sure that it's on paper and there's a certain mandate of doing EBA, but actually on action? How can we have a ministry engaging in action that complies with the principles of EBA?
Yeah.
If you could elaborate on that.
Yes, sure. Thank you very much, Jose, for that question. And so I think that we also have, in these study cases, I think that if we can make a link, a much more clear link with land use planning, for example, and how these strategies could be, part of the land use planning. So you have a chance, to have this incidence that you're talking about. But I would also add that you need to better understand the benefits of the EDA in comparison, for example, with hard adaptation techniques, for example. So what we need are much more detailed financial analysis of that decision. How much it costs to use, for example, hard designs, for example, dam, or in terms of infrastructure, example, and how much or what are the benefits, of using ecosystems and not hard infrastructure, for example. So I think that this is a very, very good question, because this is one of the other challenges we need to face. If we really want to have the political weight required to use ecosystem as part of the adaptation strategies.
Bernard, thank you very much for the presentation. As always, it's very clarifying, and it helps a lot to listen to your presentations, also to understand this new concept. My question relates more to previous strategies that we have already in place, right? I don't know in other regions of the world, but where I come from, we have invested a lot of energy and time and resources in seeking implementation of, for example, integrated water resource management, right? Now, in face of climate change, we are confronted with this type of new concepts. So, how would you categorize? Can you give us a couple of key points in which one strategy differs from the other one? So, ecosystem-based adaptation vis-a-vis integrated water resource management.
Yeah. Yeah, good question. Thank you. So I think that, as I mentioned before, a key element of an adaptation strategy when you're talking about climate change impacts are vulnerabilities. So the point of departure of any adaptation strategy is the vulnerability analysis. And two questions are important when we are doing vulnerability analysis: is vulnerability of what? Different questions if we're talking about people, or we're talking about ecosystem, or we're talking about species, for example. The other question is, what is the best information available to do that? In terms of scale, climate projections, etc. So the difference, in a short manner, put it in a few words, is that you really need a vulnerability analysis, to understand what would be the impacts in the future, or according to the different scenarios in your watershed, in the case you are using. This is a key element for an adaptation strategy. Otherwise, everything that we are doing right now could be considered or defined as an adaptation project, and that's not the case.
You have any other question or comment? Please do. Right.
Gracias, Tomás. Well, I think the important presentation is a part of an important process in IUCN, like the 2000, 2004, 2008, to view it to the integrated management of water and ecosystem approaches, management and other experiences like the evidence, the quality and quantity of the data and the experiences of pilot projects. And your resume is very important for clarify the momentum of the process, and you're invited to develop and linkage with the process, with the scientific and the social. But I think the Mesoamerican and other parts of the world, like cultural knowledge and evidence of the resilience about the recognize this part of the process, and includes part of the coffee plantation, like Chiapas, maybe part of this important process to adaptation, like vulnerability and risk management. I think that this is the part of the invite to develop or increase the escalation of the process of the other instances like IUCN and other UNEP or World Bank, and part of the linkage with the governments, local governments, state governments, federal governments, and if I think this is the provocation of your presentation, if try to scale this process. I think that.
Yeah, I'm agree with your point of view. And this afternoon, we're going to have this workshop, and we have keynote speakers from UNEP, World Bank, IUCN, CIFOR, discussing exactly how to make that link. So it's going to be a great time to put that question on the table. And I think that you're going to have very, very interesting answers.
Is there any more comments or questions? Please.
Good morning, thank you. I'm Lonette Royo, I'm from Indonesia. Nana Institute works in community groups around very important landscapes in Indonesia. We just had a UNESCO site approved in Bali, and it's a subak. It's a traditional irrigation management system. I go back to all of the principles that you have pointed out, and wonder if there was a way IUCN would actually be able to continue to pool and capture some of these very unique adaptation systems that are very much local, that would inform many of the biophysical and other sciences that would be developing. There is an urgency here by which we need to be able to inform each other, and sometimes there's a tendency for us to really hold ourselves back because we don't have enough evidence. And therefore, we think that only at a certain level can we change policies at the scale that we think the world could all move into. But meanwhile, we have all these problems that we're actually the village levels and even the expanded local government levels are already providing solutions to. And I would tend to believe that IUCN, by the time it concludes it, many of the models have already moved and would have been helped if there was a bit more proactive, proactive guiding from IUCN. So I'm curious how you elected to pick your sites and how you would sustain studying those sites in this project, and if there was a way to to plug in to many others out there.
Just a clarification, when you said sites,
When
you mean
said-
the map that I put with the site cases. Well, those are not pilot sites for us. Those were just selected in a process, with certain criteria, to be included in our publication, because you really need some minimum criteria to be part of that lessons learned process or extraction, if you want. So just to clarify, those are not pilot sites, so we are not doing right now any experiments on the field, on the ground. This just to mention that we took 11 cases around the world to extract the experiences and the lessons learned on the implementation of the EBA. Just to so regarding the how to make the link, I would say that's a good question for the Commission. So right now what we are doing is to make us the question, how are we going to move forward with this concept of EBA, and how are we going to keep the interest of local, regional, and national implementation agencies, to really have much more incidents at these three levels. So it's part of the questions that we, as IUCN and at least at the Commission, we are doing this ourselves right now.
Well, no, I also found the question very interesting, because that's at least from my perspective, coming from the Secretariat and implementing a project on EBA, it's part of the learning curve that we have had during the last 2 years and a half, where we had a vague idea where we were, and today we can say proudly, also with the help of colleagues like Bernal and his work, that we have a series of distinguishing principles that can already identify what EBA is. This has been taken up to the national levels, to the decision-making levels, where it has been picked up as a promising principle for adaptation strategies, but also it has been taken to the higher level. For instance, we work closely in the Environmental Law Center with the Helsinki 1992 Convention on Transboundary Water and Lakes for the European Union. And there, within their water and climate working group, they have already picked up as well the ecosystem-based adaptation as one of the promising strategies. They share a lot of what Bernal has said today, in the sense that we need more evidence to fine-tune and to understand what are the concrete benefits of such an approach. But that's just an example how it's being picked up by different international bodies at the highest level. For me, what is most interesting is that evidence is produced in the ground. So it's really a bottom-up approach, if you want to see it on that sense. But also, just to conclude here, also UNFCCC is very much interested in ecosystem-based adaptation. So you can see that all these experiences that we are gathering here as a big IUCN, they are being fed up in different parts of the international discourse, and also at some different levels. Thank you.
Just to add to what we have to cut it off. Just one final comment on that. So we really have to recognize that, as Jose said, maybe this is not a completely new approach, and so that means that this is not bad. So what it means for me, that comment, is that we really need to link, the current knowledge to these new approaches. For example, by using ecosystem for adapting to climate impacts, that implies the sustainable use of that ecosystem. So what implies sustainable use of ecosystem? So implies that you're going to conserve it in the long term. You're going to conserve not only the biodiversity, but also the ecosystem services associated. So that's part of the reasoning that we have to use, and there is behind that EDA. So it should not be, conceived in an isolated way. It should be conceived as an integrated part of a development strategy. that link different areas of the development, not only related to a conservation agenda, as I said before.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Bruno. What we are going to have next is that we are going to have 3 project presentations, and since we are a small group, what I would like to invite you is just to go in front of each of the 3 panels we have here, so that we can have the presentations around down there. At the end, what we're going to be doing is round on comments of reflections about the 3 presentations. So why don't we just leave our seats and we'll go for the first presentations at the back of the room, please.
This is the chicken. That's just me. Had some.
La adaptación de comunidades locales ubicadas en la región binacional, porque es un proyecto binacional, para la adaptación al cambio climático. So we are supporting the IUCN in the implementation of the project with a binational approach, es una cuenca binacional, inclusive parte de Saola es parte del límite entre ambos países. So we work in the Saola Basin, which is the boundary river, and part of the river is also the limit. Se escogieron 2 sitios, en lo que es la cuenca media y la cuenca más alta para trabajar, tanto del lado de Costa Rica, esta es la parte de Costa Rica, esta es la parte que podríamos llamar más alta de la cuenca, acá, y esta es la parte baja de la cuenca que está por eso. So within this basin we are working in 2 pilot sites, one in the upper part of the river and one in the lower part. Okay. Bueno, vamos a explicar ahora más en detalle qué es lo que estamos haciendo en cada sitio. Es importante resaltar que en esta parte, que es la parte más alta de la cuenca, fundamentalmente se trabaja con comunidades indígenas. En la zona más baja pues, son comunidades campesinas, cabinas.
So, 100% of the population in the lower European, the middle part is indigenous population, and the farmers basically.
También es de resaltar que en lo que es el trabajo con sectores indígenas, el trabajo también fundamentalmente está liderado por mujeres. Grupos prácticamente que todos están liderados.
And all leading people in the indigenous territory are women.
Muy bien. Ha sido muy importante el trabajo que se ha desarrollado en este sector. Yo voy a empezar por esta parte de gobernanza, porque es la parte que para nosotros es base. Se ha trabajado mucho en lo que es el fortalecimiento de las estructuras políticas que hay en las comunidades locales, en los sectores indígenas. En el lado de Costa Rica existen estructuras políticas muy particulares, en donde los indígenas realmente manejan sus territorios y los lideran políticamente.